Hayden had engulfed her in fire. "What are you smiling at?" Fallon asked, breaking into Hayden's thoughts. Fallon was leader of their group of warriors. They had banded together to fight Deirdre and the wickedness she spawned. Though they had expected it would take years, Deirdre had changed everything when she took the youngest MacLeod brother, Quinn, captive. That's when they had taken the fight to Deirdre. "The fact Deirdre is dead," Hayden explained. "Everything we've been fighting against all these years is over. Gone." Fallon smiled and slapped him on the shoulder. "It's a wonderful feeling, isn't it? Now all we have to worry about is having the Druids find the spell to bind our gods once more. Then we can live as mortal men." Binding the gods was all Fallon, Lucan, and Quinn spoke about. But the MacLeod brothers had wives, so they yearned to have their gods gone from their lives. Hayden, on the other hand, wasn't sure he wanted to be mortal again. He was too powerless that way. "I'm going to look on the other side of the mountain," Fallon said. "Maybe we'll find someone alive." "I think the ones who could make it out of the mountain did. It was the weather that killed them." Fallon blew out a ragged breath and clenched his jaw. "We should look inside the mountain then. Some might have been too afraid to leave." They both turned to the door that stood ajar amid the rocks, as if waiting for them to enter its wicked domain. All Druids were gifted with a certain power. Deirdre's had been moving stone. She had instructed the mountain to shift and form, so that she had a palace inside it, shielded from the world, hidden from all. Countless Druids had died heinously, and many a Highlander had been brought to her to have his god unbound. If he didn't house a god, he was killed. Even now Hayden could smell the stench of death and iniquity that permeated from the mountain, could still feel the helplessness which had weighed heavily on his shoulders while he had been locked in one of the various prisons. But he had been one of the lucky ones. Hayden had broken free and escaped, determined to fight Deirdre and her bid to rule the world. Why would anyone stay inside that place? Hayden murmured, as unease rippled down his spine. He fisted his hands and forced himself to stand still and not give in to the urge to turn away from the malevolent mountain. Fallon scratched his jaw, his gaze thoughtful. "I do not know, but it's worth a look. We freed these people, and it's our responsibility to make sure they return to their homes." Hayden considered Fallon's words. "They might not want our help. We are, after all, warriors. They might not be able to tell the difference between us and the warriors who allied themselves to Deirdre." "True, but I must look either way. I wasn't held longer than a few days in the mountain, so it doesn't hold the memories for me as it does for you." Hayden might not want to go into Tantor, but he would. "I'm not afraid." Fallon put his hand on Hayden's shoulder and looked into his eyes. "I would never think that, my friend. I would not torment you, though." He dropped his arm and smiled. "Besides, I want to return to Lorena as quickly as I can. You give a final look over the mountain while I go inside." Before Hayden could object, Fallon was gone. He used the power his god gave him to jump inside the mountain in the blink of an eye. Fallon couldn't jump somewhere he had never been before, but the use of his power had saved them countless times. They all had different powers. For Hayden, Aurenion, the god of massacre which was inside him, gave him the ability to call up and control fire. There were other differences as well. Each god favored a color, so every warrior transformed to that color when he released his god. Yet for all their differences, there was a great deal they had in common, like strength, speed, enhanced senses, as well as deadly claws and sharp fangs. The most disturbing, though, was that their eyes changed to the same color as their god. It had taken Hayden a long time to get used to that. He hadn't seen his own eyes, but he could imagine how he looked when the whites of his eyes disappeared and his entire eye turned red. As much as Hayden had rebelled and fought the god within him, that same god allowed him to defeat Deirdre. With Deirdre dead and his family massacred by a drow sent by Deirdre, there was